Hello and welcome to our fresh new episode of Science Monitor, our weekly update on all that is happening in the field of science and technology in and around the country. Let us first take a look at the headlines. Tailored medicine soon to become a reality. Dr. Eric Lander shares the story of his scientific journey. A gigantic climate migration looming in the horizon, warn researchers. Rising water levels of Sundarbans a major threat. India takes a step towards sustainable energy as solar-run e-scooters hit the road. We talk about SER's technology. Hair color may now be a clue to nabbing criminals. In focus will be C.V. Raman and his principle of scattering of light. And in science, you can use after cell phones, now wristbands become the eyes for the visually challenged. And now news in details. Every human being is different from the other genetically. So it is only natural that they respond to drugs differently. While some people may respond to very low doses of a particular drug, others may need a much larger one, while some may not respond at all. Imagine how wonderful it would be if we could get drugs that were customized specifically to our needs. This would effectively mean freedom from unnecessary drugs, more effective cures with lesser dosage and no side effects. This is what genomics and personalized medicine is all about. And this science is the focus of a recent lecture series by renowned researcher Dr. Eric Lander.
It is far more important to know what person the disease has than what disease the person has. These are the words of Hippocrates, the father of medicine. We have often seen people responding to various infections and treatments in quite a different manner. While some people are allergic to certain medicines, others may respond to the same drugs quickly. Did you know that some of us may actually need far more or less dose of the medicine than we actually take? Which means we may be pumping medicines into our systems unnecessarily with long-term toxic effects. Are you prone to developing certain diseases like cancer and diabetes? And how would you respond to the drugs? Answers to many such questions lie in understanding the entire genetic makeup of a person, also called the genome. The famous Human Genome Project, which led to the sequencing of the entire human genome in 2003, has thrown open the doors to new avenues. This fascinating science and much more were the focus of the series of lectures that were delivered by Professor Eric S. Lander, who is currently touring India. Professor Eric S. Lander is one of the principal leaders of the Human Genome Project. Over the past 15 years, Lander has pioneered research for identifying human disease genes and enabled their application to medicine. The lectures, which are a part of the 5th edition of Cell Press DNQ Distinguished Lectureship Series, were organized in Delhi, Chennai and Bengaluru. While in Delhi, Professor Lander spoke on the human genome and beyond, a 35-year journey of genomic medicine at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. The event saw large-scale participation of young researchers, experts and medical students from across the country. With better understanding of the genes and their function, today researchers have been able to identify the factors that are responsible for many disorders like diabetes, schizophrenia and heart attacks. Scientists also use genomics to find targets for therapeutic intervention. Creating the story of Human Genome Sequencing Project, he also stressed on the need of transforming healthcare systems into learning systems based on patient data. Armed with this genomics knowledge, researchers are today working towards customizing healthcare.
Well, understanding what the differences are between those people who are at risk for a disease or not tells us about the underlying biological mechanisms that cause the disease, and then help people to develop therapies based on knowing true causes as opposed to just symptoms. So it's a systematic way to gain knowledge about the basis of disease.
A specialized field called personalized medicine or precision medicine is evolving that will soon enable tailored drugs instead of common drugs for all.
Four islands already underwater and many others abandoned. Sundarbans, the world's largest delta, is today under the threat of rising sea levels. Strangely, with water levels rising twice as fast than the global average, the day is not far when seawater will completely claim this entire piece of fertile land. While this would mean the loss of large biodiversity, are we heading towards the largest human migration history has seen? Join us as we explore the situation.
Spread over 10,000 square miles, the Sundarbans is the largest mangrove forest in the world. Home to about 13 million people, this fertile ecosystem also sustains a large number of rare species including fishes, crocodiles and birds. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is also inhabited by the Bengal tiger. But today, the fertile lands of the Sundarbans are under the threat of rising sea levels. With the dangerous effects of climate change manifesting itself across the globe, scientists predict that the Sundarbans could be underwater in 15 to 25 years. While the global sea levels are rising at an annual average rate of about 3 millimeters, the rise is twice the global rate in the Sundarbans. The result? Many natives are already homeless as their huts, agricultural lands, fishing ponds all have been consumed by the salt water. If the trend continues, environmentalists predict that we may soon witness one of the largest climate migrations in human history. While the primary reason for the rise in sea levels is attributed to the melting polar ice due to global warming, other factors like wind, ocean currents, tectonic shift and variations in the Earth's gravitational pull also contribute towards it. In addition to these, dams, irrigation systems and human activities such as deforestation have led to large-scale erosion of these deltas. Losing the 10,000 square mile region will have serious socio-economic and environmental effects. While humans will displace as climate refugees to India and Bangladesh, the large biodiversity of this region will also be lost underwater. West Bengal and Bangladesh may be in for more natural calamities after losing tangles of mangrove forests and freshwater swamps that act naturally as cyclone buffers. The long-term solution to the looming danger seems like migration or relocation of the entire population, which in itself is a very serious concern. Needless to say, this calls for an advanced strategic planning to mitigate the effects.
The common man's vehicle gets a new avatar. With e-scooters that run on solar power hitting the road, we can now look forward to a less polluting and economic ride. Both eco and pocket-friendly, the e-scooter developed by a group of youngsters from Tamil Nadu offers a new ray of hope for a sustainable future. Here is a look at this innovation.
Since the onset of the Industrial Revolution, fossil fuel resources across the globe have been massively exploited. In just over 200 years, we have managed to consume an unbelievable amount of coal and oil, leaving fossil fuels all but gone and the climate seriously impacted. While on the one hand is the rapidly deteriorating environment and the dwindling stocks of fossil fuel, on the other is the increasing demand of energy and fuel by the rising population. Fortunately, being aware of the situation, the younger generation is coming up with interesting innovations to save fossil fuels and improve energy efficiency. The solar-powered e-scooter is just such an innovation. Developed by a group of engineering students from Tamil Nadu, this solar-powered e-scooter is a promising and eco-friendly step towards saving fossil fuel and the environment. The scooter runs on a primary and an auxiliary set of batteries and takes 6 to 7 hours to charge fully. It can travel at a speed of 50 to 55 kilometers per hour and give a mileage of 45 to 55 kilometers once charged. Plus, the bike can also be charged while driving. Adding an innovative step towards the venture, e-scooter reflects India's commitment towards expansion of renewable energy.
There are tough times ahead for criminals, especially those who like a little color in their hair. Yes, you heard that right. Hair color could provide clues. The new surface-enhanced Raman scattering technology helps track down criminals by analyzing the color of their hair.
Criminals with a weakness for dyeing their hair have something to fear. But the new technology that has arrived may lead to their being tracked down. Sniffer dogs, fingerprinting, DNA identification. Adding to this series of forensic techniques is the novel Surface-Enhanced Raman Spectroscopy, or SERS, in short, that aids in the analysis of hair samples at crime scenes. The technology helps to rapidly determine whether the hair samples, even microscopic ones, were colored and what brand of dye was used. Developed by Richard P. Van Duyn and Dmitry Kurowski from the Northwestern University in the USA, the SERS technology overcomes the limitations of traditional testing methods, which are often labor-intensive and flawed. Currently, hair samples to be tested for DNA require an intact bulb or root, in the absence of which the only option left is visually comparing hair from a crime scene with samples from suspects using a microscope. SERS with a portable Raman spectrometer is a highly sensitive technique. SERS can detect minute amounts of illicit drugs, explosives, gunshot residue and body fluids. The details of this interesting work have been published in the ACS journal Analytical Chemistry.
And now it is time to take a short break. We'll be right back. Keep watching Science Monitor. For ages, it was believed that the blue color of sea was due to a reflection of the sky. Until in 1928, a scientist challenged this belief and proposed that the blue color was due to scattering of light by water. The scientist was Sir C.V. Raman, and his theory was called the Raman Effect. From nabbing criminals, explosives, hazardous chemicals and gases to pharmaceuticals, material sciences, petroleum industry and chemical industries, the Raman Effect finds application in many fields. As the nation celebrates yet another science day dedicated to this genius and his findings, let us try to understand what the Raman Effect actually is. That is in focus today.
Countless humans must have seen apples falling from a tree and the blue color of the sea. But it took researchers like Newton and Raman to decipher the natural laws behind these seemingly simple phenomena. The desire to question simple occurrences and the perseverance that takes to answer them is what sets scientists like C.V. Raman apart from the common man. Every year, February 28th is celebrated as the National Science Day in India. This is to honor the discovery of one of the fundamental principles of physics called the Raman Effect. It was on this day in the year 1928 that Sir Chandrasekhara Venkata Raman announced the discovery of his famous Raman Effect, also known as Raman scattering. The discovery of the Raman Effect led to the Nobel Prize in 1930 and Sir C.V. Raman became the first Asian and Indian to receive the Nobel Prize in Physics. From drugs to bombs, we use Raman spectroscopy to identify and detect many things. Scientists are even coming up with techniques like surface-enhanced Raman spectroscopy to identify hair samples. In today's digitized world, where optics and electronics are taking over the market, Raman's light scattering effect forms the founding principle of many applications. Let us first understand what the Raman effect actually is. The Raman effect explores the scattering of light when it passes through a medium. In the year 1921, Chandrasekhara Venkata Raman was returning from Oxford after representing the University of Calcutta. During his voyage, Raman was fascinated by the deep blue color of the Mediterranean Sea. Till then, it was widely believed that the blue color of the sea was due to the reflection of the blue sky. Unable to accept this explanation, C.V. Raman conducted some experiments aboard the ship itself, using some simple optical instruments like the prism. He came to the conclusion that water molecules can scatter light just like air molecules. Raman showed that the blue color of the sea was not caused by the reflection of the sky, but due to the scattering of sunlight by the water molecules. A phenomenon which is called molecular diffraction. On returning to Calcutta, C.V. Raman started working on the physics behind scattering of light and tried to measure the light scattered by liquids and various solids. His work led to the discovery of the Raman effect in 1928. When a light beam falls on a liquid or a solid medium, some of the beams pass through. But a small part of the light is deflected and scattered in different directions by the molecules of the medium. Raman observed that the wavelength of the scattered light is different from the wavelength of the original incident beam. This change in wavelength of the light beam on deflection by a medium is known as the Raman effect. Today, the Raman effect is identified as one of the fundamental principles of optical physics and has applications in a variety of fields. Researchers and experts working in the area of pharmaceuticals, material sciences, petroleum industry and other chemical industries regularly use a technique called modern spectrometry. This is the method which uses the spectrum of the scattered light to understand the molecular structure and properties of the material under study. The technique is based on the Raman effect. Similarly, the Raman scanners used to detect drugs, explosives, hazardous chemicals and gases are based on the principle of the Raman effect. The Raman LiDAR is used in atmospheric physics to measure the atmospheric extinction coefficient and the water vapor vertical distribution, and so on and so forth. As we celebrate yet another National Science Day, it is important to understand the significance of scientific applications in our daily life. If applied wisely, science and technology has immense power to transform the world. Let us all strive towards leveraging on this power to make the world a better place to live in.
And what are the contributions of science to this week's history? We shall learn in our next segment, History of Science.
In one of the most well-known accidental discoveries in the history of physics, on the 1st of March 1896, French physicist Henri Becquerel discovered radioactivity. Working on uranium crystals and photographic plates, Becquerel put them in a drawer to observe that the plates, when developed, had a clear image. Radioactivity refers to the particles which are emitted from nuclei of certain elements, like uranium, as a result of nuclear instability. Alexander Graham Bell, the famous scientist, inventor, engineer and innovator, was born in Edinburgh, Scotland on the 3rd of March 1847. Bell is credited with the invention of the telephone. He also worked extensively in medical research and invented techniques for teaching speech to the deaf. Alexander Graham Bell during his life held many patents, including 14 for the telephone and telegraph, 4 for the photophone, 1 for the phonograph, 5 for aerial vehicles, 4 for hydro airplanes, and 2 for selenium cells. Valentina Vladimirovna Tereshkova, the first woman to travel to space, was born on 6 March 1937 in Russia. She was selected on 16 February 1962 to join the female cosmonaut corps from more than 400 applicants and 5 finalists. Tereshkova piloted the Vostok 6, which was launched on 16 June 1963. Nicéphore Niepce, the French inventor, was born on 7 March 1765. Considered as the inventor of photography, he is credited with developing heliography, a technique he used to create the world's first permanent print made from a photo-engraved printing plate. His other inventions include the pyreolophore, the world's first internal combustion engine.
Let us now have a look at some important science and technology activities happening in India and abroad in our special segment, Science Express.
Mr. Tapan Mishra, outstanding scientist and Deputy Director, Microwave Remote Sensing Area of ISRO's Space Application Center SAC, Ahmedabad, has assumed the office of the Director SAC. An expert in digital hardware engineering, Mr. Tapan Mishra is known for his contributions to the development and deployment of instruments for OceanSat-1 satellite, Special Airborne Radar System called DMSAR, Scatterometer payload of OceanSat-2, development of C-band synthetic aperture radar of India's Radar Imaging Satellite 1, etc. The Defence Research and Development Organization DRDO, during the 19th to 21st February, organized the International Conference on Information Technology yesterday, today and tomorrow. The Defence Scientific Information and Documentation Centre, Delhi, was the organizing centre for this bilingual conference. The conference itself was held at Paintal Memorial Golden Jubilee Auditorium at Vallabhbhai Patel Chest Institute campus. The event saw the participation of leading academic scientists, researchers and research scholars who presented about 270 papers that have been compiled into 6 books. Around 1,000 researchers and academicians across the country presented their research in the national language Hindi. With the aim of launching a massive campaign to fight cancer in the country, a 2-day symposium, Cancer Prevention in India, was recently organized by RTI International. The conference, which saw the participation of almost 120 renowned participants, deliberated on the strategic roadmap and policy recommendations that need to be adopted to combat cancer in the country. The symposium was hosted in partnership with the American Cancer Society, Public Health Foundation of India, Institute of Cytology and Preventive Oncology, and Harvard Global Equity Initiative. Scientists looking for methods for eternal storage of data have now come up with a novel idea. Researchers at ETH Zurich in Switzerland have developed a new DNA hard drive that can store data for 1 million years. The DNA hard drive makes use of the high storage density of DNA by making it more stable with the stability of DNA. The information is stored on DNA by programming the A and C base pairs of DNA as a binary 0 and the T and G as a 1. The information-bearing DNA is then protected with synthetic fossil shells, which are tiny glass spheres around 150 nanometers in diameter. NASA astronauts at the International Space Station have successfully completed their first of 3 spacewalks. The spacewalks are meant to create parking spots for Boeing and SpaceX to deliver astronauts to the orbital laboratory. The 6-hour, 41-minute spacewalk by Expedition 42 astronauts Barry Wilmore and Terry Wirtz aimed at preparing the ISS to allow future commercial crew vehicles to dock to it. Under this feat, the team assembled a series of power and data cables at the forward end of the Harmony module and pressurized mating adapter 2 and routed 340 of 360 feet of cable.
On to our next segment, science you can use. While the world shrinks into a huge village and wearable technology becomes the trend, here comes another addition that claims to make life a little more easier for the sightless.
Bats cannot see, but still they are known to navigate using ultrasonic sound waves. These sound waves bounce back from surfaces around them, and this is called echolocation. This instinct forms the idea behind HELP, that is, Human Echolocation Partner, the novel wristband that is here to aid sightless users navigate their path and avoid obstacles. The wristband helps the wearers read the way by emitting sound waves. The sound waves bounce back with a host of sensors producing vibrations. These vibrations tell the user whether a door is open or closed, whether stairs go up or down, and other useful tidbits about the world around them. The wristband has been developed by a group of researchers and students at Wake Forest University. A revolution in navigation vibration, this cheap and easy-to-use echolocation wristband offers a new ray of hope for the visually challenged.
Well, that is all for this episode of Science Monitor. Do tell us how do you like our program. You can send your feedback and suggestions. Our email ID is news@vigyanprasar.gov.in. You can also write into us at Vigyan Prasar C24, Qutub Institutional Area, New Delhi 110016. Well, that is all for today. We'll be back with fresh news stories on science and technology again next week. Till then, stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV and think scientific.